I never imagined I would be living in Atlanta, Georgia, and when I moved here in 2008, I absolutely hated it. But after 15 years, I can honestly say I love living in Atlanta. So what changed? Well, I'm going to give you 15 things I now love about living in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome back to Living in Atlanta. This YouTube channel is all about providing you value so you can understand what it's like to live in the Atlanta area. My name is Mark, and at some point you may have the need to buy or sell a home in the Atlanta area, and we would love to be your real estate agency of choice. If you want to talk more about your plans to live in Atlanta, book a Zoom call with me by clicking the link in the description below, or send me an email to info@livinginatlantateam.com. Let's get into the video. So number one, absolutely my favorite thing about living in Atlanta, Georgia is that it's a city in a forest. Now this isn't quite the same as nature. I'm talking about something very specific here. And if you've ever visited or spent time here, you probably know what I'm talking about. But more so than just about any other city in the country that I can think of, Atlanta is a city in the forest, okay? I live in the heart of the city, about less than half a mile from downtown, and my property is surrounded in trees. If you were just looking up, you would think I was in the forest or in a totally rural area, okay? There are trees all over the city and it creates a really beautiful atmosphere. It's calming, it's beautiful to look at, and yeah, it can cause some problems from time to time, especially if they're close to your house, but it's a very unique feature of this city that after 15 years has become my favorite thing about living here. Number two is the weather, and this one gets overlooked a lot, especially by people who have lived here for a long time. Now, of course, with weather, everyone has different preferences, but personally, I prefer 4 seasons, 4 distinct seasons over like a Southern California where it's beautiful, but it doesn't change much throughout the year. Now, I grew up in the Northeast, so we had 4 seasons, but that hot and cold was pretty extreme, especially the cold. Atlanta overall, I describe as a mild climate, and yet we do have 4 distinct seasons. Now, yes, you've heard about the summers here, and it does get extremely hot and humid for a long time. But much of summer is also extremely beautiful and sunny. And as far as winter goes, for those of you from harsher climates, it's going to be a joke to you. There's hardly ever snow, and it really just gets kind of chilly for a few months and rainy. Rarely have snowfall. It's very easy to get through. Now, as for spring and fall, these are my 2 favorite seasons here. It's absolutely gorgeous during those times. I'm talking sun, light breeze, 60s and 70 degrees. Absolutely gorgeous. Year after year, I appreciate the weather in Atlanta more than anything. For number 3, I have opportunity. Atlanta is an extremely entrepreneurial city, and there's opportunities not just for entrepreneurs, but for long, healthy, productive careers. There are 35 Fortune 1000 companies headquartered in the Atlanta area, and 19 of those are in the Fortune 500. So whether you're starting your career or looking to advance it, or whether you're looking to start a business, Atlanta fosters an entrepreneurial mindset, and there's a lot of big businesses focused here. It can be a great opportunity to launch your career or make a major change. Either way, Atlanta has a ton of opportunities no matter what your career is. At number 4, I have affordability. Now, for those of you from Atlanta that are watching, you're probably scoffing at this because just a few years ago, the affordability was off the charts. In fact, it probably would have been number 1 on my list. You could buy a home inside the perimeter for under $200,000. Now, that is certainly not the case anymore. However, Atlanta is the 6th largest metro in the country, and compared to those other large metros, our housing costs especially are very affordable. You can still live in the heart of the city at a reasonable budget. If you need a detached option, you can get by for $350,000 or less, but if you're open to an attached option like a condo or townhome, you can still get in here under $200,000. And even if you're looking to rent, more so than many other cities I've spent time in, are opportunities here to rent out an entire house, often for under $2,000 a month. In addition, the property taxes here on average are much lower than our counterparts in Texas, Florida, California, or New York. So yes, affordability has gone down quite a bit as the metro has grown, but comparatively, there's still great affordability in Atlanta, Georgia. At number 5, I have nature. Now, we are not just a city and a forest. We are a nature lover's paradise. Of course, Atlanta itself has more green space and public parks than most cities in America, but it's not just the green green spaces, it's rivers. We have the Chattahoochee River, which so many people in the Atlanta area enjoy in so many different locations and in so many different ways. And as a kayaker, I can tell you we have tons of other fantastic rivers like the Cartacay in North Georgia, Tallulah River Gorge, and the classic Chattooga. There's amazing lakes like Lanier and Allatoona. And there's endless opportunities for great hiking, from Stone Mountain to the Appalachian Trail. There's great hiking and great mountains here, especially in North Georgia. And when you go up to North Georgia, not only is it beautiful and scenic with great mountains, but you even have a climate that supports vineyards. So there's some really nice vineyards in North Georgia that people don't talk about often. Now, I don't know if we're still on the topic of nature, but I got there. So if you're an outdoors enthusiast, no matter what your specific hobby is, Georgia is gonna have what you're looking for. At number 6, I have Buford Highway. Now, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, you know I'm a huge fan of the ethnic cuisine in Buford Highway. Now, Atlanta itself, I am fairly critical about the high-end restaurant scene in particular. However, there is the promised land, just in the northeast side of town, starting in the perimeter and going up north towards Duluth, was Buford Highway, which is a stretch where there is some fantastic ethnic food. And Buford Highway is an amazing place where you can get so many cheap eats, and there's so much amazing ethnic food here from countries all over Latin America and Asia. The food is authentic and the prices won't break the bank. If you're a foodie and you're gonna be spending any time in the Atlanta area, you need to make a visit to Buford Highway a priority. For number 7, I have the BeltLine. Now, I talk about the BeltLine quite often on this channel, but it is Atlanta's best amenity in my opinion. Basically, it's an old railway corridor that was ripped up and paved over, and now it's a connected trail that you can walk, bike, or scooter on. And why it's significant is that it's connected neighborhoods in Atlanta that previously were not connected. As you know, we are a sprawled out city that you pretty much need a car to get anywhere here. However, with the BeltLine, you can walk to different neighborhoods, often faster than you could drive them. So not only has this created more options for not having to get in your car, but if you're just out on a day, especially on the weekend in Atlanta, and you just want to be outside, you want to experience different parts of the city, you want to do some walking, some exercising, maybe at some point you want to get something to eat and end off with a nice drink, the BeltLine is going to be your destination. You can go from Inman Park and up to Midtown, or you can go the opposite direction. Heck, you can loop around the entire city if you want to. So there are endless opportunities, and not only is there the BeltLine, but there's all of the amenities that pop up around the BeltLine. It's its own mini economy around the BeltLine. Restaurants, bars, shopping, and retail are totally transforming the neighborhoods that it runs through. And they're also in the process of creating light rail on the BeltLine, which will be sorely needed for how bad our public transportation is. So overall, the BeltLine is something you need to be aware of if you're coming in to visit. And if you're looking to buy real estate in Atlanta, especially if you're looking in town, you want to be aware of this because purchasing near the BeltLine can be a fantastic anchor for your property values. At number 8, I have the Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. Now, what's so exciting about an airport? Well, I wouldn't say it's exciting, but I'll tell you what, when your go-to airport is LaGuardia for most of your life, you come to really appreciate a great airport like Hartsfield-Jackson. It's just very easy to navigate at the end of the day. You've got a really simple train system that gets you to your gate really quickly. It's easy to navigate. And yes, it can get completely insane during certain holidays like any other airport, but you can fly anywhere from Hartsfield-Jackson. It's a Delta hub, and it handles more flights than any other airport in the world on average. So whether you travel frequently for work or for fun, you're gonna have more opportunities for direct flights at Hartsfield-Jackson. And generally speaking, your travel experience is going to be a pretty good one there. At number 9, I have natural disasters. Now, I always get some pushback from locals like, hey, we have natural disasters. We had a tornado that one time. And I think to myself, listen, when you're talking with people from California, New Orleans, and Florida all day, these areas are areas that you really do deal with natural disasters that impact your daily life, that you have to prepare for, that you have to pay for in a lot of different ways. Not even touching on the insurance aspect of it. But the fact is, in the Atlanta area, I have never dealt with a significant natural disaster. Yes, there was a tornado that touched down in the city a few years ago, and it did cause a lot of damage, but that is an extremely rare occurrence. Hurricanes always end up just being pretty bad storms. Of course, we never have to worry about earthquakes. Really, the only main one that you could have to worry about is flooding, specifically in certain areas of the Atlanta metro. But overall, living in the Atlanta area, natural disasters are not something that you have to plan for. They're rarely something you ever have to think about, and that is a big bonus of living here. At number 10, I have diversity. Now, I grew up in the New York area. It was really a melting pot, and I'm really grateful for how exposure to different kinds of people shaped the way I grew up. I also appreciate that about Atlanta, Georgia. Now, I would not describe it as a melting pot, but it is diverse, okay? We have one of the largest black populations in the country, and we have a very healthy population of Asian and Latin American communities. And to me, this just brings more exposure to different kind of cultures, different perspectives, different cuisines, and all kinds of different experiences in the city that you wouldn't otherwise experience if it was just more homogenous than it is. And although the South can get a rap for being intolerant to certain people groups, I can tell you with certainty in the general Atlanta area, there is a place for everyone to feel accepted. At number 11, I have culture. Now, Atlanta's culture, or style if you want to say, is a little harder to track than say a New Orleans or a San Francisco or a New York. Those are really distinct cities that bring up certain imagery and experiences as soon as someone mentions them. Now, in Atlanta, I think it's a little bit harder to identify, but in my time living here, if I had to pinpoint it down, I would identify it as steeped in the history of the civil rights movement, an incredibly rich culture of music and music lovers and being at the forefront of what's popular in many different kinds of music, and entrepreneurship, like I mentioned before. And not just entrepreneurship for already wealthy to-do people, but people of all different ethnic backgrounds and social statuses succeeding consistently at a high level in Atlanta. Honestly, it's extremely inspiring to be around. Number 12, I have festivals. Now, if you are a festival goer, Atlanta needs to be on your radar. I don't even think I can touch on half of the major festivals that go on here throughout the year. To be honest, I'm not a big festival guy. I prefer staying at home for the most part, but I mean, Pride Fest, Music Midtown, the Jazz Festival, the Peachtree Road Race, Comic-Con, Shaky Knees, Shaky Beats. I mean, the list goes on and on. Whether you're a music fan or an arts fan, there is a festival for you. There are festivals throughout the year, from food, music, any kind of hobby that you can think of. You are not going to run out of amazing festivals to enjoy in the Atlanta area. And for my friends who love festivals, I know it's one of their favorite things about living here. At number 13, I have written down the most random S-word that you can think of, okay? And I don't really know how to convey this to you, but Atlanta's kind of funky, man. You will see some stuff that you've never seen before, that you never expected to see before, just spending time in the Atlanta area. Parked in traffic, you're gonna see some crazy sights. You may have some people coming up to you saying crazy things. I'm struggling for words to really describe it. I think if you're from here or you spent time here, you kind of know what I'm getting at, but there's a unique flavor here. There's some unique people that really have no inhibitions about putting themselves out there, and sometimes this can get into the dark side here, but I'm talking about this in a positive light. There's just kind of a wild card factor in Atlanta where you never totally are sure what you're gonna see, especially out late at night, towards the morning at a Waffle House somewhere in Metro Atlanta. You're bound to see some interesting stuff, which is, variety is the spice of life. So it can get quite spicy here in Atlanta. Speaking of Waffle House, this wasn't even intentional, by the way, but number 14, I do have Waffle House. Now, why would I put that about things I love about living in Atlanta? Well, I mean, honestly, if you live here long enough, it becomes a point of pride. Now, if you're evaluating Waffle House like a restaurant critic, you're going to be pretty disappointed. That's not what Waffle House is for, and that's not why we love it. We love it, number one, because it's always open, right? So when you're out late at night or whatever your situation is, whether you are out partying or coming back from a long trip and you just need something to eat and somewhere to go sit and enjoy a cup of coffee and breakfast at any hour, Waffle House will always be there for you. You know what you're gonna get, you know what your order is. You're probably going to get an interesting experience in Waffle House itself, so never a dull moment there, and the food really does grow on you. So listen, if you're going to live here like a local, you do need to understand how important Waffle House is, and that's why it's on the list. At number 15, I have the future, okay? And what I mean by this is the future is bright for Atlanta. We just became officially the 6th largest metro in the country. We're one of the fastest growing metros in the country. So what does that mean? Well, number one, I think it means opportunity. We talked about entrepreneurship and career change here before. This is a great opportunity to start a business or leapfrog in your career. I mentioned that there are big companies here. There are also small companies that are growing into bigger companies here. There's a whole array of diverse tech talent, and there are going to be a lot more people moving here over the next 10 years. So of course that future is uncertain, and there's a lot of unknowns and things that we need to prepare for in terms of infrastructure to be ready for all these changes. But I'm just very bullish on Atlanta, the Atlanta metro in general, how we're growing, just based on a lot of the factors that I've already mentioned before. Okay, cost of living, nature, weather, no natural disasters, incredible economy. So in my mind, Atlanta is really a place that, I wouldn't say it hasn't been discovered yet, but it hasn't been fully established in some ways yet. So I just think this is a great place for new beginnings, okay? And that's why I have the future as number 15 on my list of things I love about living in Atlanta, Georgia. I hope that got you jazzed. I hope, if you were feeling down about coming here, that you have a little bit more hope, or you're already excited. I hope it got you super pumped to come down here and spend some time. Look, I honestly think it's a city that may not blow you away with its first impression, but it is a city that really grows on you, right? As you spend time in the warm weather and the sunshine amongst the green trees surrounding you everywhere, and you're exposed to all these different experiences. It's definitely a city that grows on you a lot. I can honestly say I hated it at first, but I really do love living in Atlanta now, and it's going to be my home for a long time. So really hope you enjoyed that list. I'd love to hear what you love about living in Atlanta. Comment below. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and until my next video, I'll see you next time.